just have a short thing to read, and then you guys can ask questions. Thank you for considering the Affordable Housing Trust Fund's fiscal year 2020 request for $1 million to replenish funds for the creation, preservation, and support of the affordable housing on Nantucket. Since establishing the Closing Cost Assistance Program in 2017, the Trust has helped 33 individuals and families obtain affordable homes. 18 of the applicants were at 100% AMI or less. This year, the Trust granted $150,000 to Habitat for Humanity, $225,000 to Housing Nantucket, and $400,000 to the town's 6 fairgrounds development. The Trust is ready to create a pilot down payment assistance program with the aid of Town Council, and will explore opportunities for covenant buy-downs to create new affordable units. It will also continue to set funds aside to build a war chest, which will allow the Trust to target and purchase properties suitable for affordable housing in the future. Currently, the Trust is wrapping up an intensive strategic planning process with a strong focus on establishing a recognizable identity in the community, furthering public education on the housing crisis, building working relationships with other town boards and private nonprofits, and creating new affordable units through public-private partnerships. The Nantucket Data Platform, with support from Remain, has approached the Trust to create a current picture of existing year-round and workforce housing, as well as the demand for such housing, determining where the biggest gaps between supply and demand occur. The Trust expects this data will build on the findings of the 2015 Workforce Housing Needs Assessment and the Housing Production Plan. Unfortunately, Nantucket's Housing Bank bill was not called for a vote during the last session on Beacon Hill, despite a strong showing in all committees and great support from Representative Fernandez and Senator Sire. Because of this, the Trust still lacks a consistent source of funds and is even more reliant on the CPC, as well as the town's operating budget and other grant sources. The Trust is grateful for the past support of the CPC and the growing confidence the committee has shown in our efforts to support affordable housing for our dynamic and diverse community. Safe, established neighborhoods, as opposed to the stress of the Nantucket shuffle, benefit the health and well-being of the island as a whole and enhance the extraordinary sense of community that we who live here are privileged to enjoy. Thanks again for your time and consideration.
I'd like to take a minute to elaborate a little bit on the strategic planning process that Rima referred to. We engaged Judy Barrett, who's a familiar personality in the housing world, both here on Nantucket and statewide. And she walked us through a strategic planning process. We got a lot of feedback last year in the funding cycle that there wasn't a real sense of that we had a plan, that we had good operational procedures, and we are a volunteer board, and so we took that feedback to heart, and we engaged Judy, who has launched us on a planning process over a number of months this spring and summer. Her report's due out to us in 2 weeks, but we sort of already know where we're going, and I'm working with our chair, Brian Sullivan, to establish agendas for the next 4, 5, 6 meetings where we will be looking at revising and revising existing programs, reviewing them, and then creating new programs, including the down payment assistance program and other initiatives. And so we're literally going to be looking program by program, meeting by meeting, program by program, and fleshing out the bones of these ideas that we've had and creating what I refer to as a roadmap for the community. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund has a role in the actual creation of units in different ways, but also I think our greater role is to be the leaders in the community in engaging others, whether that's private developers, the town, other grantors, and just the community at large in terms of support for the creation of affordable housing and the solving of this housing crisis. And so we now see ourselves as taking that leadership role in creating this roadmap and then inviting other organizations and individuals to find ways to participate so we can get the job really rolling and get the job done in the coming years. And I feel very strongly and that's the role that we will play in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And funding, of course, the bottom line here is, as Tucker Holland likes to say, it's all about the dirt. Really, it's the price of real estate here, dirt, in the creation of affordable housing, is evidenced by the 6 Fairgrounds Road project that becomes viable financially because the town is leasing the land to the developer. And so that's one of our tracks that we're exploring, is the acquisition of land so we can support the development with private partnerships, among others. So you're going to see a lot more information coming out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the next few months as to direction and ideas to really get this done so we can move from talking about it to actually doing it. Because as evidence, I'm so glad I sat through the previous presentation, because I'm a social worker in my background. And to me, the social impact of people not having a safe roof over their head is really the crisis here. That's the crisis, the suffering of children, families, people who are victims of domestic violence who have nowhere to go, people whose housing situations change, people, nonprofits trying to hire people. I mean, it's just, we all know it runs the gamut. So it's time for us to create a strategy and multiple strategies to get this done, and we're asking for your support in that, and thank you for we're asking for increased support in that. So, there.
Before we start, just 2 questions. The allocation to 200 to Habitat in this past year and 150 to Housing Nantucket, what projects were they allocated for by you?
The Tacoma Way and the Wait Drive.
So it's a project that Habitat is about to start. So they're doing 2 units on Tacoma Way, and what our grant allowed them to do is do those 2 units simultaneously rather than one at a time. So they'll be able to produce 2 houses simultaneously. And then the Housing Nantucket grant was for the house move that we all saw from Pulpus 10 days ago. That's also going. They built a garage. They moved a garage and built 1 unit there, and this will be the secondary dwelling on that property. And the building just got moved, and they have a contract to rehab that into, I think, a 3-bedroom home.
And are both those units? They're both going to be shy.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so the Habitat situation is their public marketing program had in the past had not. They hadn't done it in the plan to be shy eligible, and they are now going forward going to do all of their public marketing, and they're trying to retroactively certify with the state that the public marketing they did on their existing units qualifies those for the shy list. So they're both working retroactively and going forward, so those will be shy listed.
And both Housing Nantucket units on that lot
Yes.
are shy units.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
What's the actual breakdown of salaries? Now you've got them listed at $194,000.
Salaries?
Yeah.
We don't have an administrator specific to us, but I guess we contribute. That may have been Tucker's salary, but he is, separate and apart from the trust. He works for the town directly.
And Tucker's salary comes out of town.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got it listed here under financials. You've got salary $194,000.
Oh, that's-
$151.
No, salaries here. But that's probably, I think this is everything that has ever happened since the trust was established.
We do not have any staff expenses at all. It's something we're considering, actually, but at this point, we do not have any staff. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. The information that comes to us from the town with regard to our pool of money is very confusing. One of the reasons we probably could use some staff to oversee that. So I don't, as we have never expended money for staff. There are people whose part of their positions are allocated to working on housing. I assume it's Tucker and Megan Trudell who has, but those don't come out of our funding at all.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's from years past, because if you look through the fiscal year, which is the pages that Linnell gave us, there's nothing in there for salaries.
Well, what we're being given when we're sort of deciding, how much to allocate, we're giving a sort of a list that goes 2017, 2018. The professional services on that are well under 100,000. The largest one is for Edward Marchant
Yeah.
for 27,000. But you list for professional services $1.5 million.
I think these,
And, so I'd like some clarification on,
All right. Well, I can talk to
the
Linnell.
finances.
Yeah, and get, but I believe that these numbers are over the entire life of the trust.
At one point in time, there was a person that was dedicated to us.
Yes, Susan Whitty.
Susan Bennett Whitty. And there was a whole dispute as to who should pay her salary. And they paid it out of the CPC funds, and that's why we didn't give you any more money, because it wasn't supposed to go for salaries. So that may be the cause of it. But I think you need to get that to us by this Friday.
Absolutely.
Clarification with respect to that.
Absolutely. That's long before my time, so I will.
No, it's a long time
figure it
ago.
out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maria?
I guess to follow through with Ian, I'm trying to get a sense. We have at least 4 or 5 entities that work on housing that come to us for requests. And the town pays a town administrator. That's a salaried position. So I'm a little concerned that perhaps that is the person that should be doing the overall strategic planning and incorporating you guys. I kind of don't
Yes,
understand.
he's on the board.
Yeah.
He's on your board.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tucker?
Yeah.
He does not sit on our board. He is the town's housing specialist. We consult with him quite a bit.
He sits in on your meeting.
Often,
Yes.
yeah, most of the time. Yeah,
Okay.
we consult with him as needed. So, I think you bring up a very, very good question. And in fact, I was sitting in a meeting, Brian Sullivan and I and Tucker Holland had a 4-hour working session last Friday. And one of the things that we're talking about is what is Tucker's role vis-a-vis the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? Tucker's role is much larger than the Affordable. He does not report to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. He reports to the Planning Department. He in that role advises the Affordable Housing Trust Fund as a resource for us, but he is not. We do not supervise him. We have no authorization to give him work. We can request that he do stuff for us, but he does not work for us at all. Megan Trudell is on the PLUS staff, and a very small portion of her time is spent, she does minutes for us, she does, manages closing cost assistance applications, but she's paid by the town, and so as we move forward, one of the things that we need to talk about is if we're going to, we are moving toward defining and creating a staff position for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because if the funding grows, either through short-term rental tax or however, if money starts to flow to us, we are going to need a dedicated staff person, and that's on our agenda as part of our strategic plan for the coming year. But at this point, there's no request in any of our grant applications to support administrative staff. It's all direct program allocation for all of our funding requests.
And it looks like that you assisted with 22 closing costs on this sheet. I just counted them.
Those are the ones that have been dispersed. We've approved more, and some of them may not have closed.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you see that as like your primary role, or you're still like trying to decide your role and where it's going? I just am a little confused.
Go ahead.
That's what we've been able to do.
Right.
You know, and that was a need that came up through Cape Cod 5. We were made aware of the need, and so we responded to it, and it's been a successful, well-received program. But of course, it's not all we want to do. You know, we have money set aside, and we were happy to grant the other organizations some funds to help them. You know, we have a lot of options. There's a lot of different things we can do under our legislation, our act, and because we didn't have huge amounts of money, this was a way that we could work directly with purchasers of affordable properties and help them get into their units. So we want to build and we want to grow, and again, yes, put money aside for purchases in the future.
I guess, and I don't know if, you know, it sounds like you're evolving, but for me, this kind of dollars is high. I kind of would like to know how it's going to be spent in a general way, I guess, because it's not my money, and
Well,
it's, I understand what you're saying, but for me, you know, I mean, I want to make sure that everybody has a role and everybody is spending their money efficiently. If you guys are not going to be doing like what Habitat's doing, that's fine. If you're going to focus on the closing costs, that's fine. I need to know that, and I feel a little bit hesitant to, you know, just say, okay, here's $1 million because you're whatever, because it's not my money.
yeah.
I completely understand your hesitation, absolutely, and I think the challenge here is to help you understand that we know what we need. For instance, we had been out in the market looking at several properties that we could have potentially acquired, to do a similar thing to Fairgrounds Road, to put out an RFP for a development with a private developer. But we don't have enough money in our war chest, as we refer to it, to even get competitive in the free market for the purchase of land. We also recognize that we have to comply with procurement processes. And so our being able to go out and privately negotiate with the seller has to comply with certain, there's a phrase that's used, uniqueness qualifications. In other words, for us to go directly to buy a specific piece of property, we have to prove it's unique and not available anywhere else. Otherwise, you have to go to request for proposals or request for interest process. We are moving forward with codifying RFIs and RFPs for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund so that we will be positioned then to negotiate with potential sellers that come forward. But without money in the bank, we're literally unable to be out there available to buy property. And so that is one of our initiatives going forward. And part of the funding we're requesting from you is to add to that pool of resources to acquire real estate to do the development of affordable housing. So,
John?
What if we gave a significant chunk and it was restricted to specifically the purchase of real estate and creating new units?
I mean, I think if you're able to do that, I mean,
We can put any conditions on
you
it.
can,
Yeah.
because I know that the basic conditions are that they need to be for AMI of 100% or less. I don't know, if we're talking about a down payment assistance program that you heard our pitch at the CHIP meeting, but we're thinking about acquiring equity when we do that in our, and so would that count if you put a restriction that it was for purchasing, and we added the down payment assistance program under an equity program, that where we would actually hold a piece of the land, portion of the land, would that qualify?
Would it be taking a market rate unit and now making it restricted, so essentially creating a new affordable unit?
So we're looking at several programs. One is down payment assistance. So people come to us now, they've already been chosen for an affordable unit, and they just don't have that last piece, the $9,000 on average, as it turns out, to pay the bank and the attorneys on the closing cost. So we do that as a loan. It's an interest-free loan, the program that we have now, which is repaid to us on the sale of the house. So that's the program that exists that you see we've done and helped 30-some families get into their homes. We're looking at a down payment assistance program, which would be different in that it would be a larger number than the 9,000. For the folks at Sachem's Path that bought the 100, this wouldn't apply to CPC, but for instance, the people that bought 150% AMI unit, they had to come up with something like $60,000 or $70,000 in down payment money, and that's pretty hard when you're paying $2,000 a month in rent for people to save. They can afford the mortgage, but they haven't been able to save. So there's a lot of effective programs on the Cape that we're going to model ours after. And what Rima's talking about is then we would take an equity position in the home by virtue of our investment. It wouldn't be a loan. It could be an equity position. So that would be basically an investment in the real estate by owning a piece of the property that would then be repaid to us on sale. And then the alternative for that would be to make it a loan, similar to a second mortgage, basically. So those are the two options. And then what I think Ken's talking about is really our initiative about picking up pieces of land and being able to follow that Fairgrounds Road model, which is we own the land, we lease it out to a developer, that brings their per unit cost down so they can set aside those units as affordable. So that's one way for us to invest, and I think that's one that we are pursuing directly in terms of this RFP, RFI methodology and strategy, and making sure with Brian Turbot that we're complying with the procurement. As I say, what's happened in affordable housing for me, and I think there are so many avenues for resolution, so many ways to go about this, and it's really about prioritizing which direction we need to go. And our timing in terms of our strategic planning process and this funding request time is that we're literally on the cusp of defining those programs really specifically. And I understand your desire to say we want to know exactly where our money's going. We don't want to just give you all of this money and say, fine, you guys figure it out. So I would personally, and would be happy with, based on the rough things that I've sketched out here, for you guys to say we're interested in this program or we're interested in that program, and setting those conditions on those programs, because we're planning on doing pieces of all of this, because each one of these programs targets a segment of our community that's in desperate need of help in different ways. So, and your target is the 100% and below, which frankly is the hardest and most expensive to fund, because with the cost of real estate here, to get units that are affordable at that level, it requires a substantial investment, either in subsidizing the developer with cash or with land. And we are, land is one we've seen it will work, as it has with 6 Fairgrounds Road, assuming everything comes out in the end and that project moves forward. So
one other opportunity would be to buy down covenants on units that are being created. I think that's a good option when it comes to the 80% to get more shy units on. So if a development is being built and it's at 25% and they have some units that we could buy down covenants on to increase to a higher level of affordability, we'd like to be able to do that.
Brian, then Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of mirroring Maria's, sort of take, I guess, for want of a better word. I mean, and there are two factors at play, which have nothing to do with your presentation, which is very interesting and factual. First of all, there's always someone who says, well, we really probably will only have 2 million plus or minus to have in total. So then, and I think we always ask, what can you focus on that, on the assumption that we would not be able to grant you what you're asking. And so for me, it would be a great help if you actually gave me something tangible for what you wanted to focus on for this grant going forward.
Diane?
Just to explain something, you said that your take Abrams quarry is for down payment assistance. You did 900 and some odd for this guy. Then all the rest up and above are all 15, but they're under the same label over here. So can you tell me what the difference?
The Abrams Quarry was a resale of...
That's all Whoppers Up, that's all Abrams Quarry there. So just what is the difference between the 15,000?
Wabasset is, no, it's not Abrams Quarry.
Sachem's.
That's
Sachem's Pass, sorry.
Yeah. Why did one person get 900 and
most, all the rest of 15, was it a different kind of?
Oh, okay. So this, what this shows here is we approve up to $15,000, and then
This is for them to use to buy the house
down
that they
payment
have.
costs.
No, closing costs.
Closing costs.
15,000.
So let me just clarify.
Okay.
What we do when an application comes forward, it comes forward to us with a proposed closing cost amount. Closing cost amount always change between when the bank puts out their closing cost statement and the closing happens. So our grant is always conditional. We grant up to $15,000. We pending the final number, but we actually don't pay above the actual closing costs. So those average around $9,000. But in order to make sure they have enough to cover,
do it.
we vote a grant a loan up to $15,000 pending final closing costs. And generally what happens is the $15,000 goes to the attorneys, the closing happens, and the balance comes back. And so what you're seeing here is there's money in, money out, which is
Right.
so what you see in the red.
Yeah, the reimbursements.
Yeah.
So some of that is reimbursement from CPC. Some of that is, I think, from CPC. I have to be honest with you. I have not looked through that.
That's right.
This gives me a headache.
Just wanted to know how,
And I'm a bookkeeper now, by trade. So.
I just wanted to know how it works. And then when they buy this house, it is theirs to live in and at some time sell
Yes.
at more money than what they paid for it, or is this one of the ones that it has to be comparable to what they bought it for?
So all of the homes in Sachem's Path, including the Habitat homes, have price increase caps on them.
Okay.
As does the Covenant program, as do all the affordable housing programs. So there is some appreciation built into the formula, but they are capped at what they could sell it at, and they have to sell it to someone else who qualifies at the same income level that they qualified at. So,
Okay.
And at the time of sale, we're repaid what we...
Right. And this is all background that you have to get, that what they qualified, the amount that they qualified for, and if Stacey Beth or neither one of them have been in that long, but that responsibility
Actually, one
comes
house
back
did
to you.
turn over.
Did it? Already?
There hadn't been assistance on the original purchase, but we did do,
That was
we
the
did
one.
support Jason Grazadai's purchase, and his was the second owner. He is the second owner of Sachem's Path. But the process is that the applicants fill out a very robust financial statement, including statement of assets, and they're qualified by Housing Nantucket on our behalf at their different area median income levels to qualify for assistance. So it's the same process they have to go through to qualify to purchase the home at a certain income level anyway. And so we're looking at what they have in assets. They have to be under a certain threshold of liquid assets. They have to be under a certain threshold of income. And so we work with Housing Nantucket, and they process our applications. And then they come into our administrator. She goes through and makes sure they qualify. Then they go on an agenda. We meet the applicant. They come to a meeting, and we discuss the application, and then we decide whether or not to grant them the closing cost assistance. Then it goes through the town. We put in a request to the town. It goes on the weekly warrant with the select board for allocation. The money goes into escrow with the attorneys. $15,000. The closing happens, and the attorneys return the balance. And that's all managed through the finance department and Megan Trudell, who's our administrator.
And our loan is recorded with a deed.
With a deed.
Right, but at some time, to say you must have a fair amount of money sort of out or promised to help these people. So,
Yes.
So you have to have a working amount
Yes.
in the bank that's available to you, otherwise.
Yeah, and Megan manages a spreadsheet that I actually created. So our funding has come in with various restrictions. Some of the money comes from the town. We have to get approval to spend $1. Some of it, we have to get approval to spend over $100,000. Some of it's for up to 100% AMI, you guys. Some of it's up to 150% AMI. And we have that all in buckets in a complicated spreadsheet that then we keep track of how much money is promised, how much money is available to grant, how much money is expected back, and then when it comes back. So that's all administered, and so all of those buckets are managed by Megan
Right.
in our office.
In a pretty tight way, it sounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a bookkeeper. I reconcile to zero usually, which is why I keep track of it on that spreadsheet I created because I can make sense of that, whereas the way the town moves money around and in and out is a lot less, it's a lot more complicated as this spreadsheet indicates. So.
Would the word opaque come to mind?
Yeah. Well, it's just town finance. It's something I work in the private sector. It's just different. So I'm learning.
Okay.
I'm learning.
Well, I'm glad we had this conversation and that got flushed out, because I was going to say, is this the only financial document
No.
we have to base things on?
No.
It seems like it's this nebulous pot of money that no one has a handle on. You obviously do.
We do, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
would be-
I wish, in hindsight, we should have included it in the packet.
I was just going to say, in future applications, can you provide that for us?
Absolutely.
You need to provide it to us before Friday.
Okay, we can do that.
That would be a big help.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's one other comment. I understand you, at the beginning of your presentation, you talked about you being the central sort of funnel with respect to funding for affordable housing. And so that raises an issue with me in terms of how we're functioning, because, I mean, Habitat and Housing Nantucket obviously have come to us for funding, and we have granted them funding, and then they go to you and you give them extra funding. And we made decisions with respect to their particular needs with respect to the monies available within the community. And so, I mean, I know it's not double dipping, but the fact is that it becomes somewhat more difficult for us to understand the amount of monies that are going to the affordable housing sector within the community. And that's one of our responsibilities as a committee, is to make a determination with respect to the allocation of the areas of the funds that we have. And so perhaps in the a little bit of fleshing out in the material for this Friday, in terms of how you see your strategic plan addressing this concern with respect to people coming to us and then coming to you and then coming to CHIP for the same things.
The spreadsheet that we can provide will show you actuals. We haven't sat down as a board and laid it out specifically yet. So, but you'll see that pretty much CPC funds are set aside. We didn't use CPC funds for those grants.
But I understand what you're saying, Ken, in terms of how is the community financially addressing the need for affordable housing. And I'll be honest with you, this comes out of this question of how do we create a leadership role to spearhead us toward the solution. And I think that is a conversation that has been on the table. Obviously subject to conversation with Housing Nantucket and Habitat for Humanity, but potentially, particularly given the potential for other funding sources through taxation, even the Housing Bank bill, had it passed, there would have been a flow of funds through the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And then that begs the question, then does the Affordable Housing Trust Fund become the sole source for funding for housing in the community? And that rather than going to the CPC, Housing Nantucket and Habitat for Humanity would come only to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and then the CPC would determine how much of your allocation each year would go to housing, and then help us tell you how that will be administered based on the requests from these other organizations. And I think that may be where we're going, but again, we're in that process. So
yes, from speaking in a private capacity, it sounds at one level to have another layer of bureaucracy, which I would prefer personally, that wasn't there in terms of giving grant directly to to those who need housing. But I'm mumbling sort of. I shouldn't have probably even made that comment. More specifically, how many CPC funds do you still have available?
I think at this time, we have 800,000.
That hasn't been used yet?
No, that's the last.
And again, identified toward that real estate purchase fund.
Yeah.
Right, but could we have that in a letter? Actually?
You will have it it's in that budget document.
Okay.
So,
John?
To put it in perspective, like the parcels that were potentials range from like $3 to $5 million in terms of getting something that could make where they could do a significant dent that would interest a developer.
Right.
To get real.
Tim?
Do you have internal kind of goals set up? Not goals is probably too weak. Policy set up so that as money comes into that trust fund, you earmark specific money in different percentages and different buckets, so to speak?
We do have that in a less formal form. I mean, we have voted allocations for our various funds, our various programs, again, in the document that I'm going to provide to you by Friday. And going forward, again, this process of defining and creating programs and then determining priorities and funding needs, and then allocating funds accordingly to those various programs. So closing cost assistance down, and then also knowing where the other sources of funding are coming from. CHIP grants, you all, the town budget, and so forth. So affordable housing to me on Nantucket, as I've gotten engaged in the process, is it's all over the place. And I think that's, to my mind, that's part of why we haven't solved the problem, because there's always, what about this person, or what about that program? And I've had people ask me, what is fuel? I thought these guys, the Interfaith Council was providing affordable housing. And when I said to someone, no, that's just short term, they said, oh, we didn't know that. So I think education and outreach is also part of our goal, but definitely, having a plan and knowing what those different pieces of the puzzle cost. And I think the real driver here is this, the data platform project that we're hoping to finally approve at a meeting this week and engage them and get that contract going, that in 6 months, we're going to have a really good idea of what the need is. Because we all know it's out there, but defining it specifically by income level, home size, number of bedrooms, whether it's, people co-housing, non-family members sharing homes, whether it's how many people are living in substandard housing, which these guys don't help. These are the questions we've posed to the data platform. So by spring, we're really going to know, we're going to flesh out our programs, get the data, and then we're going to know which ones need to happen first and what volume of money to get them done.
One last question. With respect to the funding that is given for down payment assistance and whatnot, is that always repayable, or is there a period of time where if you've lived in the house for a period of time, it's forgiven?
Again, not fully codified yet, but my expectation would be it would always return to the fund. If I could decide today, that would be my decision. And I don't think anyone on the trust fund has any intention of.
I thought that we had that if the profit was less than a certain percentage, the loan would be forgiven.
So if it was underwater in a real estate market where they lost money, there might be an exception. So, good point.
Okay, I guess I don't get more confused, but
It is confusing.
so as an entity, do you have a mission statement and what do you call it when you're on a board? The rules and regs, like
They're set up by statute.
We have a statute.
State statute. Okay, that's
And it's
clear.
included in the packet under acts.
But we will be, we are defining those priorities. Within what we're allowed to do, which is this, we're looking to do this and then set up silos for actual creation of housing units, getting people into homes. That's our goal.
Thank you. So you know what you have to get to us by Friday?
Yes.
You can come by email to Glenna.
Okay. We got
Thank you very much.
We'll work on it today.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
A lot of cooks in this particular kitchen.
We need one chef, though.
And not Emerald.
Who's the guy that goes, the Spanish guy that goes all over and feeds all the people in Puerto Rico?
We need him.
He is, but that's somebody who knows how to set up boots on the ground and be efficient, and that's a skill.
What he did in Puerto Rico was unbelievable.
Isn't it astonishing?
Yeah.
It is astonishing.
Look at the difference in the approach of the federal government to Puerto Rico. And
The federal government went to him because he had the system. They didn't. So that's what I'm nervous about this whole.
There's no direction there yet.
And come back next year when you get it.
It's like all over the
I know what Habitat does. I know what Interfaith Council does.
we know what they do.
I feel good about it. I can't just give you $1 million bucks.
I'm sure we'll call it mixed.
I don't know.
But if you don't, we don't give them some part of
3 months away from having a definitive plan.
ladder out from under them if they're trying to be. I don't see anything particularly wrong with being the head guy and have all these other ones come to them, so then at least
you have some control.
Right. So I don't know how much money is necessary to do that, whether they can do it with a small amount. But her idea of sort of being the center.
Right.
But,
Well, they're very broad in what they can do.
See, I think I respectfully disagree with you. Well, we're charged with dispensing public money. I want to be hands-on.
Right.
With, the groups that we're supporting
But
now,
wouldn't
rather
they
than have them do that.
but I didn't mean that they would be the ones to decide who gets the money. I meant that they were the ones who would be looking at the different programs from the different groups
but it doesn't sound as though they have the staffing for it.
Not many staff.
And it sounds, when I said about opaque, I just feel that trying to sort out what the town is really spending its money on and how the town moves money from, various accounts is, I just can't get a handle on it, not that I'm...
Because they brought here and you don't know. It's not transparent.
It isn't transparent to me. I don't know if Dawn wants to disagree with me. I could.
It's all right. Just running up the I mean, I think we're going to have to evolve into like really
You ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
a town organization that's more robust in this area.
Will be kept separate from other town finances, so it's absolutely clear where all the money is, as opposed to moving backwards and forwards.
How you doing?
No, it is.
I'm good. How are you? I haven't seen you in
Right now,
Dog's Age.
I know.
it's in the finance management.
good to see you, man.
Finance is very thorough and very confusing. Thorough yet confusing to anyone who doesn't understand. It doesn't work there.
Good morning. Jack's going to come back.
Housing money is in,
Okay, let's get started.
under one thing.
You've been here before, so if you would, this is being recorded and videotaped, if you would introduce yourself, take a couple of minutes to flesh out your proposal and open the floor to questions from the commissioners.
Sure thing. Thank you. I'm Ann Cuspa. I'm the Director of Housing Nantucket. I have my board treasurer, Paul Wolf, here in support of this project, and program manager, Andrew Mulcahy.
Don't sit next to mine.
So,
I'm sorry, we were tracking down.
I stole his stuff. You know why I can tell it's yours? Because mine's scribbled all over the place. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't make no disrespect.
okay. None taken. Okay, so again, I'm Ann Cuspa, Director of Housing Nantucket. I have Paul Wolf here, who is our board treasurer, and Andrew Mulcahy, who is our program manager. Thank you for seeing us and for thinking about and contemplating all the affordable housing requests that we are in this year. Ours is something that you've seen before and supported before. It's a house recycling request. So for funding to do that, we have a request for $300,000 to move or build a 3-bedroom affordable rental unit. And we expect that the project would start as soon as the funding was available next July. We have quite a few parcels of land identified for this build. And I don't know really if you have any questions, but the project is outlined in the grant. I know we met with Diane about 2 weeks ago and talked about it. We looked at the site itself, which is right behind our office on the Richmond Company land. We have an agreement with them where they will transfer 4 parcels to us by November 2019. So that will happen within the scope of this grant funding. The amount, the demand, we could talk about that a little bit, really. There's very strong demand for Housing Nantucket's rental program. At this time, there are 41 families waiting for a 3-bedroom, including 103 children who are on our list currently. The 3-bedroom income requirements for a 4-person household would be somewhere between $66,540 and $88,720 per year. We use the HUD's formula to calculate what an affordable rent for a household of that size, and including a utility allowance, it's about $2,200 per year. So, in other words, we would estimate what the utilities would be for that structure. I would think, like, for example, right now we moved a house to 18 Tacoma Way, and that's a 3-bedroom structure. We anticipate the utility cost for that to be about $300 per month. So we'll be charging the rent at about $1,900 per month for that structure. The tenant will pay the utilities themselves, is what I'm trying to say here, but will allow them that amount off their rent. So other than that, I'd like to open up to questions. I know you probably have a lot of them.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Explain to me the situation with respect to the parcels in Richmond.
Sure. So back in, I want to say 2012-ish, 2013, around that time, the Richmond Company bought the large parcel behind 75 Old South Road where our office is. We acquired that property from the town, and the parcel could have 2 rental units and our office on one plot of land, and then there's another plot of land that could have 2 dwellings on it, which now houses the 50 Union Street building. So before we put the 50 Union Street building on there, we swapped with the Richmond Company and moved the duplex. So I guess maybe it'd be easier to look at the article here, or sorry, the exhibit. I want to kind of point out.
It was a land swap, so they could get their driveway.
Okay, so it's a land swap.
It's land swap, sorry.
That's all you need.
Okay.
Quick answer.
Yeah. I thought you wanted more detail. But anyway, so we swapped some land with them so they could have access. We didn't lose the capability to build anything, but we gained the capability to put 4 more structures on our land. So that was the objective.
Okay.
And that's the land that they're moving this house to?
No, the house is already moved.
In this proposal, that would be where we put.
That would be the land that you're going to be using.
They were using the Tacoma as an example. That
Oh,
was
okay,
Yes.
okay. So I guess my question, you have the land.
We have an agreement where we will get the land before November 2019.
They're just still doing their subdivision.
Yes, the reason why it takes so long for the Richmond Company is because they have a large parcel that they're subdividing. It needs to go to land court, which is what's happening right now. They're putting in the utilities, but we will have that by November 2019 and probably before.
So there's no cost for purchasing the land?
0, yes.
That was painful.
It was town land that was swapped.
Okay.
Well, it was actually housing Nantucket's land that was swapped.
Okay, but it wasn't.
At one point, it was town.
Right, that's what I mean. Like you got it from the town.
Yes.
And then it was swapped.
Yes.
Miller's Way?
Yes, exactly.
Are there any house moving costs in here?
Yes. So you are looking at exhibit. Oh, sorry. No, you're looking at within the grant itself. You're looking at page 10.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So you have your house move cost there, which is the third line down, $50,000.
Oh, I got it. Okay. I didn't see it.
And we got all of these numbers from the 2 projects that we had going this year, which were the 18 Tacoma house move that just happened a couple weeks ago, and 7 Surfside. There's 2 new builds there. So we have all of the actual costs, and that's where we got these numbers from. So we feel this budget is very good.
Oh, the only other question I have is Surfside done, and are you finished using any CPC funds?
The last request for CPC funds is on your agenda later on today, is from what I saw from what Glenna sent out this morning. So, and that's the end of what will be coming to CPC for. And your other question, are they done? Final inspection was obtained on Unit A, and Unit B had the inspection, but there's like some grading work that needs to get done, some minor stuff, and we expect the COs will happen within the month. So they're almost done.
So, what's the approximate square footage of house that you hope to be moving?
Well, if we looked at some of the one that got moved
Right.
from
It's like 1,200 or so.
Right. So upstairs is about 900 square foot for a footprint, and then there's a little second floor that had about 300 to 400 square feet. And then the basement, what we've been doing for the basements, we haven't been finishing the basements, and we're allowing the tenants and providing that space for them to store all of their stuff, because people need storage space, and it helps our properties look better when they have sufficient storage space.
Right.
So we're not putting bedrooms in there, unless it was a 2-bedroom that got offered to us, and then we would put a 1-bedroom in the basement and then allow more space down there for the storage.
So in the 2 houses under construction, 7 Surfside Road,
Yes.
how much has been spent on them, and what are their square footage?
So the 2 houses that are being constructed right now, each one of them is about $185,000 to construct those, including the basement space, and they're each 575 square feet or thereabouts. So those are new builds, stick builds.
Just, I don't know if you can, how likely is it that you're going to find a house that'll work?
I think it's very likely. In fact, I have 2 dwellings that I'm going to look at out in Cisco that meet the bill. One of them in particular I'm really excited about. I mean, we get calls about dwellings all the time.
But I know sometimes you move it and then you get in there and you're like, yeah, it's going to cost more for X, Y, Z.
Well, what I do is, before I even go out there and look at them, I look at the map geo online, and I can see what the footprint is. Okay. If it's anything larger than 22 feet wide, already flags are starting to go up because we're going to have to cut it, which not ideal for cost purposes. Okay. So, 22, maybe 24 feet, then I'll have to get the house mover out there and see what the route is and everything else. But these dwellings fit the bill, and one of them in particular I'm really excited about. I talked to the house donor, and I tell them about how we need some money to support the move. Like the budget that we provided to you, $330,000 for the whole project. If you gave us $300,000, we still have to come up with the extra money. So that's where we asked the house donor to contribute, and they really like that tax credit that we can give them. Well, we give them, it's a community investment tax credit from the state. We're certified. We're the only ones on Nantucket certified by the state of Massachusetts to issue tax credits. So we're able to do that, and the state has recognized us as a CDC, which means a Community Development Corporation. And it's a big deal because it means that our board is representative of our community. All of our board members are year-round residents. And we also have a diverse board socioeconomically as well as racially. And we make, we're really conscious about who we ask to join the board so that we reflect what the community looks like.
Thank you.
So, and the state likes that.
Other questions?
What about making this a shy unit?
So shy units, we have some shy units. We have, if that was a requirement, let's see, I'm thinking about the land itself and thinking about which units we have that are shy. Really the ones that are shy right now, the selectmen have required us to put them on the shy list in exchange for, say, waiving sewer connection fees. So these would be shy eligible because they're below 80% AMI, and we would be going to the selectmen to ask for that waiver. So I don't see why not.
Okay. What exactly does shy mean?
That's a subsidized housing inventory, and it's a big deal right now.
10% that we have to get to.
Right, with regards to the 40B laws.
And if it's going to be at 80 anyway, I know it's a bigger process, but once you've got somebody in there, they're probably in there for a long time.
Yep.
Part of our strategic plan is to get 24 units to come online every year.
Will that get us
to keep us in safe harbor? But if all of the current projects come, if Richmond and Tacoma get built, we'll be at around a little over 8%, I believe, is the
really? Because
figure.
right now we're only at, 3 or
2.5.
2.5.
If those projects get built,
Right.
we'll be there because so many of them are rental, so they all qualify, even if they're not all below 80.
Yeah,
But we need more
right.
to fully get there.
And once the units that have already been built and are shy eligible, like 18 Tacoma and some of the Satcham's Path units and some of the Avon Quarry units, I know you'll be making a big jump there as well. So we're making progress, and it is something. It takes a couple extra steps, but I think it works for us all. I mean, shy units at this 80% and below, it's the rents are so low that we do need the extra supports from the town, like the waiving the sewer fees and the CPC contributions. All that counts when we go to the state for approval. They want to see what has your town done to subsidize this unit, and those are things that are in our favor.
And what is the difference between market rate units and the HUD formula that you use? Is it a substantial difference?
I mean, I'm not a real estate broker, right?
Yeah.
So
That's why I asked you.
Really, I can't say what a 3-bedroom would rent for in the open market right now. But I mean, what I hear the scuttlebutt is $3,000 to $4,000 per month. I mean, probably Dawn would be able to answer that better if you can find it.
Yeah.
If you can find it.
So it's a third, basically, at least less.
But so if we did $1,700 a month, so half-ish.
I can add, Ken, that the Richmond apartments that are being built now, 2 bedrooms, brand new, air conditioning, they're getting costing $2,700 or $800 a month now. Again,
Those are in their freestanding buildings too. The units, the apartments in the freestanding buildings are running at that cost, $27 for a 2-bedroom.
right.
I think they're in apartment buildings, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Apartment buildings.
4 units.
Those big ones. And most of them have 4 units, and 2 up, 2 down. And the basement is sort of questionable as to what it's going to be. Not cheap.
No.
Any other questions?
So there are no other CPC funds out there in any of your other projects?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, what's the question?
yeah.
They have a lot.
We've funded a lot of different projects for you guys, and are there
Yes.
any other projects that you have CPC funding that's still in your kitty?
Right, okay. You have funded a lot of projects for us, which has been great because we've been able to provide the affordable housing that the community needs, and we've been able to use those funds to do that. So your question is, how much money do we have in our coffers? And I hear that from you for a couple of years. And we've spent, there's one project that we have planned for this spring. It was planned in the fall, but now has been pushed off to the spring. So that's 1 unit. But other than that, I want to say it's $9,000, something like that. It's in the $10,000 range, $9,000 or $10,000, plus that one extra project that will happen this spring.
And so what have you got allocated for that extra, for that one project? of
It's probably
CPC money?
it's about $150,000.
Is what you have left of unspent CPC money.
Correct, for this year.
Can we get that for additional, just so I know what, just in a letter or whatever?
Yeah, could you, by Friday, let us know what?
Yeah, what we have.
what's
And which
still-
project
What
it is.
what has been allocated but it's unspent?
Okay. Yep. There's 2 grants right now. One that's almost done and one that will be done this year.
Okay. So we'll cover that by Friday of this week.
Yeah, we can send it right away.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any additional information that, I apologize for having been outside. Okay, then thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, let's now move into our regular meeting for tomorrow, which has been added to the end of the agenda for today's hearing. The agenda,
It's right, the following.
okay, all right, the agenda follows. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, it's on the back of the thing. Flip that guy. Yeah. I promise not to take it. I'm notorious.
Okay, there are the items for approval. Minutes have circulated, they're here on the table. Would I have a motion to approve those unless there are additions or corrections?
I would move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. There's no correspondence, and we have no guests. The fund requisitions are two, Hawking Management for $16,000 and change, and Housing Nantucket for 7 Surfside of $60,000 and change.
I'm just going to recuse because I'm the butter to 7 Surfside.
Okay. Entertain a motion for the approval of those two.
I'd move approval. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved unanimously with the abstention of Dawn. With respect to the Finance Department, Brian promised that information for me by tomorrow. So what I will do is, before the end of this week, I will get out the best guess as to the amount of funds that we have available. And just to give you a bit of background, the funds will be sourced from the following areas. The funds will be sourced from the CPC surcharge. They will be sourced from interest. They will be sourced from an estimate of what we think the state matching grant will be to be received in next year. And they will be sourced from the reserves in open space. And we have two small amounts, a small amount of reserved of space in historic preservation and in affordable housing. And so that will be the, and I have not seen any numbers at all yet with respect to undesignated reserves. That's normally around $600,000 or $700,000, which has been the amount that we've kept there since the very beginning to cover off. So once I have those numbers, I'll be able to get those to you for our sense of deliberation. And again, for Jack's purposes, we need to allocate 10% to each category, and we can allocate up to 5% for administration, and the balance of the 65% can be allocated as we see fit using the resources available to us, including the designated reserves. Is there any other business that anyone would like to raise today? Then we start our deliberations
Monday, 22nd.
Monday here at 9 o'clock and plan on being here the entire morning till noontime. And what we do is we go through, are they in, are they out? And then second, discussions with respect to initial sense of allocation with respect to amounts to be funded. All right. And then we have a cooling off period.
That's Monday the 22nd, right?
Monday the 22nd, and then we come back on the day after my birthday. On the 24th, and then we have a rational discussion in terms of infighting as to how we finally make the determinations. Again, I think the 2 points that were made was and this doesn't apply only to open space. It applies to the other areas of designated reserves, and that is just because we have the funds doesn't mean we have to spend the funds.
When we have the meeting on Friday, are we going to discuss?
Monday. Monday.
No meeting on
Mon-
Friday.
This coming Monday.
A week from today.
But what day is the day we're having it? Oh, that's Monday, from 9 to 12. We're going to discuss the appropriateness of the application. I asked because unfortunately, I'm not going to be here on the 22nd, which disturbs me, but I'm in North Carolina.
Well, but the thing is, are you going to be here on the 24th?
No, I'm not going to be back until the 6th of November.
Okay, then, if you'd like, you can share with me your concerns, and I will raise them on your behalf.
Okay, so I should come and talk to you, or when we have the meeting on next Monday from 9 to 12, I can give you my concerns then.
Yep,
Great.
for sure.
Because
And we can do it over the phone, or you can do it by email, whatever way works best for you.
that's great.
Sometime
I
this
was
week.
very disappointed to find that we had made this going down to see my grandson a long time ago, so can't change
No,
the thing, but it's been
Are
very
you allowed to
interesting.
call in?
Yes.
yes.
Do we have the facilities here to call in?
Tim did that one.
Yeah.
I don't have the
Well,
brain.
there was a phone here.
Okay, so that's something
You
that
could
we
call
could
in if
Yeah.
you want to.
do. Yeah.
I can do that because I'll have my phone with me.
That's probably the easier way for it. If you want, send me an email raising the issues, and then we'll plan on having the phone available for you to
Yeah,
call.
if it comes up, I'll be on right there.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I went and saw them, and George. I had a 2-hour meeting with them about their application because I had a bunch of questions and stuff, which I think they have answered. There were some questions about some of the maintenance on some of the buildings, which seemed high, and some of the people that they use, like Chip Webster for architect and stuff. But she pretty well explained that he gave them a good cut, and they had worked with him, and the same with Winters. So that's why I didn't bring any of that. Ron Winters has been their contractor for some time, and he's very good. So if you have good people that work for you and understand the program, then
Makes a difference.
it makes a difference.
Mr. Chairman, could I raise an issue before we adjourn?
Yep.
I think and I might be wrong here, but I think our meeting in November on the 20th, that's the week of, it's 2 days before Thanksgiving, I think, this Thanksgiving, the 22nd.
22nd, right, yeah.
I'm not going to be here that day.
Neither am I.
Can we move it? Yeah.
Move it a week earlier. I thought we talked about doing that, moving it a week earlier.
That would be the,
I'm leaving the 29th of October for those 10 days.
I'm getting on a plane the second school gets out.
we're out of here.
And what are you doing with the rest of the family?
So it would be like the 13th-ish?
The 13th, we're gonna do November 13th,
Okay.
Thank you.
okay?
Will we be here? We don't know yet, Glenda, do we? Whether we'll be here or over at the...
We'll probably be over at Fort Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds, yeah. So what you'll do is check to see what's available.
Sure.
And send a notice out to the committee that we're
Sure.
going to have our meeting on November 13th at the regular time.
Not unless you want to move it to an earlier time. I think that if we move it any time between 9 and 12, we could possibly get this space. It's up to the board.
I'm usually out in California, actually.
Right.
That's just one missing
Yeah.
instead of 3 or 4. So.
I love it here.
Yeah.
I'd vote to meet here
Yeah.
all the
This
time.
makes a nice table better
Trying to
than
stay out
the
of the police
one
station.
at Fort Fairgrounds.
Do 9.
There's less schlepping around, too.
It won't conflict with overtime. We'll try for 9 o'clock on the 13th.
November 13th.
Yeah.
Sure.
The 13th at 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Good point, Tim.
No, thank you.
All right. As you're thinking, my guess is we're going to have before we have the money from the historic preservation and affordable housing, we're probably going to have around 2.2. So it might be a little bit more than that, a little bit less than that, but that's a realistic number before we think about the money for open space reserves. And the reserves in the other two categories, I think, are one's in the $50,000 range, the other's in the $10,000 range.
And that's after taking care of the bond payments?
Well, the thing is that the bond, no, that's before the bond payments.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the bond payments is that Brian's done an incredible job. And those are down significantly. I think we only have 4, or we're in one instance, maybe 5 years left on them because of the way that he's done them. And because of the fact that he was able to keep them in-house for a while. We've only gone out for a bond on one of them, and he's going to go out this fall for a bond on the other, apply the $112,000 against that. So again, I'll have those numbers, but that's a lot, being paid off a lot quicker than we thought because of what he's been able to do on behalf of the town for us. So, I will enter. Diana?
I can ask after we close the meeting.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
I can't believe I took this. No, I